It doesn't take a lot of money to live your dream life. All it takes is a thankful heart, determination, and a little creativity. Her mother immigrated from Venezuela as a young woman and met her father in a small farming town in Indiana. Author Kristina Ellis was living the dream life as a little girl, but at the age of 7, her father passed away from brain cancer. Her family struggled financially after the loss, but God was faithful, and even though considered low income, her mom figured out how to give her family a great life within a price that she could afford. Today, Kristina shares her journey of overcoming significant obstacles to win $500,000 in scholarships and graduate from her dream school. And she's helping others to figure out the same thing and how to live a dream life without a huge budget. This is her story of unshakable faith. This is today's Nashville. Kristina, I am just so glad that we get a chance today and sit down and get to share your faith and your amazing story. And so I'm just so glad we're here today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So tell me about your journey from the very beginning. I know that your mother migrated from Venezuela. Let's go back and if you can share.
She came over when she was in her 20s. She actually got a scholarship when she was in Venezuela. She had a group of friends that went to take a test, and she actually was kind of a tag-along. She didn't know what they were doing and wanted to just go hang out with her friends, and little did she know that it was a test to win a scholarship to go to one of 8 countries, and she was the only one that passed out of all her friends. And they called her up and said, you have 2 weeks to decide if you want to move to a different country. And
move to a different country or visit?
To move.
Oh,
yeah, to go to college. Mm-hmm. So she picked the United States and so began her journey here in the States. And she actually went to a little community college in my hometown and ended up meeting my dad, and they fell in love.
Indiana, right?
Indiana.
I'm a Hoosier too.
Ah, yeah.
Indiana.
I love it. And they fell in love and started a family, which, so began my life. And we had just a really beautiful life with me and my mom and my brother and my dad.
Now, are you the oldest?
My brother is older than I am. And unfortunately, whenever I was 3 years old, my dad got diagnosed with brain cancer. And it was really tough because there were constant seizures. We had to kind of slowly watch him deteriorate. It was a blessing and a challenging time because on one hand, I always tell people when they say they're sorry my dad passed, that I got to kind of watch him live like he was dying. Like, we got to spend a lot of time together and make beautiful memories.
Did you know what was going on at age 3 or?
Not quite that young, but over time I did. He would have pretty frequent seizures and just really struggled. He eventually lost feeling in his arms and legs, and he ended up passing away when I was 7 years old. And it was really tough. He was such an amazing person and just a positive influence in our lives. So it was pretty jarring for my family. My mom, being from Venezuela, she didn't really speak strong English at the time and was kind of overwhelmed with her new life. She had to figure out how to be a single mom now in a country where she didn't grow up. And she had a lot of people encouraging her to go back to Venezuela to be near her family and to have extra support. But her thing was that her kids had already been through so much, and she didn't want us to have to start a whole new life in a different country. So she decided to stay and fight and do the best she could to raise us. And even though she had a lot of grief that she had to go through, she just wanted to push through and give us the best opportunities possible.
She sounds amazing.
Yeah, she's a fighter.
Did she have support here in Indiana, or was it mostly people from home in Venezuela that was persuading her to come home?
Well, thankfully, my dad's side of the family is incredible. So we had, my grandparents, aunts and uncles all in the area, and they just took her in like she was their own. So thankfully, we had a lot of great support, and we're from a small town. So we had the support of the small town, and our church was awesome. We constantly had people wrapping their arms around us, delivering meals, and just making sure that we knew we were loved. So even though it was a hard journey and it was lonely at times, we did have a really beautiful town to exist in and to kind of come and support us.
So you had a church family.
We did.
So you knew Jesus at a young age?
Yeah, it made a huge difference. My grandparents actually were missionaries in Haiti. They led over 50 trips to Haiti. So they definitely had a very strong community in that area and a very strong faith.
What about your life after? You know, when he passed away, you started junior high, high school. What was like then?
It was really hard. I mean, we were in pretty deep grief. My mom and my brother, they expressed their emotions, you know, more outwardly, and we were all grieving. I went inward, and so I actually developed a pretty hidden pattern of self-abuse and self-destruction. I got pretty dark for a while. I spiraled. I was always the kid. I was in middle school. I was always the kid that had a smile on my face, but just really struggled with just my dad's loss and trying to figure out how to move forward. And I hit a spot where things actually got dark enough that I thought about taking my own life. I actually had a plan. We had a big argument in my house one night. Everyone stormed out, and I had a bottle of pills and planned on that being the end. And there was a phone call that came through, and the phone just kept ringing and ringing and ringing. And I tried to ignore it, but it didn't stop ringing. And it just happened to be my aunt, one of my favorite aunts, who was calling late at night, just out of the blue, 10 o'clock at night. I was like, that doesn't happen normally. And I picked it up, and she was just calling to talk. And we ended up talking for 2 hours till like midnight. And I woke up the next day, the sun was shining. It was beautiful outside. And then the enormity of what I'd almost done came flashing back. And I realized that was just a really pivotal moment in my life, because I made a decision that next morning that I could not go that dark again, that I could not live in that place of darkness. And that's really the moment that I started fighting for my life and chose, instead of going down dark trails of self-destruction, to start getting involved in activities and choosing positive outlets to put my emotions in.
Did you receive any outside help, or did you just make that decision on your own in the Lord, or did you tell anybody what was going on?
Yeah, I actually feel like that phone call was a call from the Lord. I mean, in hindsight now, I'm like, that just feels like God, you know, snapping me out of it and drawing me into Him. I didn't actually tell anybody about it at the moment. I just poured into activities and kind of made that decision within myself. I did have good support around me. That aunt that called was one of my best friends. You know, as we grew up, she just always was there to nurture us. So thankfully, I did have a good community around me, but in terms of telling anybody how dark I had gone, I didn't tell anyone. I just worked really hard on myself to move forward.
So Kristina, that phone call changed your life.
It did. It did. It just really opened my eyes to, one, how easy it is to slip into darkness and to go further down a trail that you really don't want to go on. And it also just inspired me to change my life for the positive and to pour into things that were life-giving and that moved me forward.
So what happened after that?
So after that, I got really involved in activities. I ran cross country, which I really think was a great outlet for me. It kind of helped me just have somewhere good and positive to channel energy. I got involved in different activities. And then I reached my freshman year of high school, and my mom actually gave me a challenge the first day of my freshman year of high school. She said, "Kristina, I love you and I believe in you, but there's just no way that I can support you financially once you graduate from high school, so you've got to figure out your own way to pay for college." And at first, I was shocked. I thought, why are you telling me this? I am a freshman in high school. What can I do about it? And I started getting pretty frustrated for a moment, but then at the same time, I knew that she was just trying to be real with me. She actually said, "Kristina, you're not meant to struggle financially your entire life, and if you work hard enough now, I know that you can go to a great college and start fresh." And I started.
Were you even thinking about college at that time, or
yes and no, a little bit. Yeah, I've always been pretty ambitious, and I knew I wanted to do something, you know, in my future, but it wasn't like on the forefront. At the moment, I was just trying to figure out high school.
Right. Freshman year.
Right. I was just trying to like be cool and figure out what I was going to wear the next day. But it did get me really motivated, and I started doing a ton of research. We read books, and I interviewed alumni from my high school that had been successful in the scholarship process, and just watched different interviews and tried to put together a strategy that would help me stand out in the process. And we did that, and I felt like I had a pretty good idea, and then I just started executing and trying to build up my resume throughout high school and do things that I loved, but also do things that would help me get into college and win scholarships. And so I worked throughout high school and was super active, did a lot of volunteer service hours, was in a lot of sports. And senior year of high school, I ended up treating the scholarship application process almost like it was a part-time job. I just applied. And
do you know how many scholarships you applied to?
Over 40, which is actually low compared to some of the people I've talked to. I put tons of effort into the ones I did apply for. I was pretty OCD about my essays and all of the applications. For one of the biggest scholarships I won, I actually wrote 7 different essays, and I had like 7 people review every single essay to make sure it was strong and help me improve it. So I just really took that process really seriously, and thankfully I ended up winning over $500,000 in scholarships and was able to go to my dream school completely debt-free.
And your dream school?
Vanderbilt University.
Vanderbilt, right here in Nashville.
Right in Nashville. And then I went to Belmont for grad school on a full ride as well.
What was that like, coming to Nashville?
Oh, it was kind of overwhelming coming from a smaller town. It was kind of funny because I was so determined to go to college and had been looking all over the country, thought I wanted to go to California, and ended up coming to Nashville, was so confident. And then I got to orientation thinking, you know, I've got this, I'm good to go. And it was like, literally as my mom drove away, I nearly started crying because it was like that moment it hit me like, oh my gosh, this is actually happening. I'm leaving my small town and I'm on my own. It was a lot, but.
So what did your community think when they found out you received $500,000 worth of scholarship money? I mean, that is it's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I kind of had a mixed experience. So on one hand, I had my close community, friends and family who were really supportive. I actually had a bit of a bullying experience in high school. I did pageants and had some of kind of the like cliche mean girls that didn't really like that and ended up having a pretty terrible social experience starting like sophomore, junior year of high school. So it was interesting because in hindsight, like looking back, I realized that, you know, my mom laid the foundation for scholarships. And I kind of describe it as like she laid the kindling for the fire, and kind of going through this awkward, rough social experience, I feel like was the match that like lit the flame for the fire. Like it made me so motivated to get out of town and to move forward and move ahead in my life. So it was a challenge, but it pushed me forward. So it was funny because my community was super supportive and excited that I won scholarships. But by the time I actually started applying for scholarships, I was just struggling socially that I ended up not telling anybody that I was applying for scholarships. I kept it really quiet, and just when I won $500,000, it was actually kind of a shock on awards day. A lot of people, the principal started being like, there's somebody in our audience who has won the Coca-Cola scholarship, and she's going to a top 20 school, and people were looking around like, who is that?
Oh, you really did keep it a big surprise.
Yeah.
What was their reaction?
I mean, there were definitely a lot of jaws dropping because I just didn't make a big deal of it.
That is an amazing story. How did you handle all the bullying?
Honestly, I think in hindsight, it was a blessing, and it actually led to a lot of the scholarship success because similar to that story when I was younger where, I hit this dark patch and then ended up trying my best to turn the darkness into something positive, it was that similar situation again where it's like for about 6 months, I really struggled and didn't really want to leave my room and just wanted to cry about it. And then I hit a spot the spring after it started where I made a playlist of songs that would pump me up. Whenever I started feeling bad, I was like, I'm just going to listen to this song and I'm going to listen to that song. And it just completely shifted my mindset and thinking. And in that period, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start fighting and working harder on the things that I can control. I'm going to pour into my job. I'm going to, do more volunteer hours. I'm going to just work harder on the things that are good and positive and that I can do something about.
How was your faith during this time?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I feel like God's always had his hand on my life. Like he,
definitely.
my family, we at the time didn't go to church regularly, but I feel like the Lord was always speaking to me very closely and directly. I spent a lot of my effort doing volunteer hours. So we went to Haiti, and I actually started a shoe drive where I shipped shoes to countries where people were dying from parasites entering their feet. And I feel like the Lord was really using me in many senses while I was in high school. And in my darkest moments, it's like I can pinpoint so many moments where it's like, that was the Lord speaking. Yeah. Like that song that I found that I latched onto, now as an adult, I look back and I'm like, that was the voice of the Lord just speaking.
Do you remember the song?
Into my life. Funny enough, the Voice Within by Kristina Aguilera is actually like, you wouldn't think that would be a song that would have a lot of faith, but if you listen back to that, it's like talking about, like, I take it as like the Holy Spirit, like trust that voice within that's speaking life to you, and it was really powerful at that moment.
What was your mom's response when you received a $500,000 scholarship?
My mom is funny. So she has always been so confident in us that for her, I think it was almost like, yep, that's what I expected. Like she has always had this incredible sense of like, if you think you want to do something, just do it. Like if you think, whenever I competed for Miss Indiana Teen USA, she just, like, whenever I got the letter in the mail, was like, I want to do this. She's like, absolutely. Why wouldn't you be Miss Indiana? Sure, go for it. Like, she has such a level of confidence that it's amazing. And so she was excited, but I think she also was like, of course you would, which I'm so grateful she instilled that.
Today, what would you say to your mom?
I would say thank you. Like, honestly, thank you for fighting for yourself. Thank you for fighting for us. Thank you for fighting to give us opportunities and for encouraging us to believe in ourselves. My brother has also done amazing things with his life, and I really feel like it's proof that my mom's pouring into us and, just fighting for the best life possible for us really paid off, and I'm just really grateful for that.
So Kristina, what degree did you receive from Vanderbilt?
I ended up double majoring in human and organizational development and business planning and entrepreneurship.
And so where has God taken you since then?
Yeah, so after I graduated with my master's degree, I was planning on going corporate, love business, and was going to focus on that. And then I actually had a mentor who, we were having coffee one day, and he was like, so what are you gonna do to pour back into the next generation of students? And I had told him about my story and just the struggles we went through very casually one day. He was like, I think you should write a book. And at the time, living in Nashville, I was like, everybody's a writer. I don't know that I want to write a book. And he was like, I really think even if one person reads that book, that it's worth it for you to reach back and use your unique voice to try to inspire someone. And so we actually ended up kind of starting that journey. And I ended up writing a book. I got a publishing deal right after I graduated. And I kind of saw it as my year of service because, of course, when you write a book, you don't know if anybody's going to read it.
And what's the name of the book?
My first book is Confessions of a Scholarship Winner. I actually saw it as that year of service and just poured into it and ended up, getting really motivated to help students graduate debt-free. And the book took off, and it led me on this journey of just trying to open students' eyes to the fact that you don't have to go into debt to get a college education.
So what would you say to somebody that's listening to your story now?
Yeah.
What would you say to them trying to get into college?
I would say that, it doesn't matter what background you come from or, what your life experience has been up to this point. You can start your story fresh and get an amazing education, and you can do it debt-free.
I read on your bio, on your website, that you love to share with others how to live your best life, your dreams, on a budget.
Yes.
I love that because so many people think the opposite. Can you share more about that?
Yeah, I feel like one of my callings is to help people live a rich life in all areas of their life. I want people to realize that even if you don't have a ton of money, like you can maximize what you have and find joy in that experience and in that process. So, I focus not just on college finance, but helping people live, and maximize their finances in all areas. One thing that's been really cool with my life and my journey is I'm really passionate about travel. And my husband actually gave me this challenge early on where I was
You get a lot of challenges.
Well, he was like, I was like, I want to travel the world. And he was like, well, if you can do it on a budget, that's fine. He was very much like, only if we can keep saving and being strategic. So I got very into finding amazing travel deals and just dove into that process. And we ended up traveling to 25 countries. And I did this trip called the Grand Hack, where we went to, Thailand and Australia, New Zealand, Indonesia, all these different places, and I did it for 80% off. So
you are amazing.
I was like, we'll get the best of both worlds. We are going to live this up, but we're going to stick on a budget.
Okay, there's another book there, Secrets on Travel.
I love it.
That's wonderful. Tell me about your husband and your children.
He's amazing. He's a huge part of my faith journey. We actually met at church, and when I met him in college, and I'd come from high school. I was such a fighter at the time, but at the time still felt a little, not jaded, but just, I had been hurt by a lot of people in the world, and I felt like I was kind of rough around the edges. And we met at church, and he just really helped me dive into my faith journey. He is such an optimist and very much is on the side of always sees the best in people. So we did a lot of ministry together, a lot of healing ministry. We went through Restoring the Foundations, which is a great ministry, and just really focused on pressing into the Lord and growth, and it's just been incredible. I feel like I'm such a better person for having met him, and he's just really pushed me to just press into the Lord and to turn to him, and it's just, I'm so grateful. He's such a great person.
You have a beautiful family. You have 2 children.
I do. I have 2 children, and they're just awesome. It's such a cool thing being a mom.
So where is God taking you now?
Yeah, right now, I feel so grateful to be on this mission to help students graduate debt-free because, at this point, it is a crisis. If you look at student loan debt right now, it is one of the highest consumer debts, only behind mortgage debt. It is ridiculous that we are letting kids get into hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt when they're, teenagers, like they're just leaving the house. I feel like it's, in many senses, the enemy is putting chains on them when they're young, when they're just starting their adult lives. So it's like, I feel so passionate about trying to just open their eyes and help them fight to not get into debt so young. It's like everybody sees that there's constant news articles about people lamenting student loan debt, that they're not having children nowadays, they're not getting mortgages, they're not doing all these things that should be part of the experience of becoming an adult. They're being hindered simply because they chose to get an education. And I don't think people should be punished because they're wanting to better themselves and get an education. So I'm really focused on trying to help people win scholarships, educating them about the different options that are out there to graduate debt-free, because it's like this can set them up for success throughout the rest of their lives.
So how are you reaching them? Is it through social media, interviews, or?
Yeah, so I have 2 books, Confessions of a Scholarship Winner and How to Graduate Debt-Free. I also have a course on the College Ninja, or collegeninja.com. It's a scholarship course that walks students through the entire process. I'm really excited it's out there. It's nice to be able to be face-to-face with kids. And then I've actually traveled the country the last 8 years working in high schools and doing workshops to help students graduate debt-free.
So when you meet high school kids, they come up to you, what do you challenge them?
Yeah, well, I think, one of the things that I love the most about meeting students in person is that, I can tell them my story. And I think what's unique about my story is it's like I didn't have it all perfect. I think that if I were the valedictorian and class president and had everything together, I think kids might roll their eyes and be like, oh, that's awesome, I can't relate to that. But it's like, I went through bullying. I wasn't the perfect student. I wasn't the star athlete. I had to really fight, but it still happened and I overcame it. And no matter what you're doing right now, no matter your circumstances, you can do the same thing too and have a super successful life in your future. And so it's really cool to see that light bulb go off where I can give them not only practical tips, but help them believe in themselves, which honestly is like the greatest joy for me, to see them find themselves and just be ready to move forward.
Well, Kristina, thank you. Thank you so much that you are sharing your life and your faith with others.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
My friend, are you facing anxiety about the future? Place your faith and trust in Jesus. He holds your future in His hands. Trust Him so that you could share your unshakable faith with others that will give Him honor and glory. This is today's Nashville. This is faith.
Cornerstone Television wishes to thank all our faithful viewers whose consistent prayers and financial support have made this program possible.